Hello everyone and welcome to today's session where we'll be talking about a comparison between ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro. So we'll be looking at the latest versions of either. So we're going to be using ArcMap 10.8 and we're going to be using ArcGIS Pro 2.5. So when you open your ArcMap, this is the landing page where you just have the option of either choosing a blank map or cancelling this. There's really no difference, because let's just for instance click this and say okay. So this is the page that you land on, all right, as your first page. So for ArcGIS Pro, however, you'll just you land on the starting page, which you can actually configure and change, but let's just see what you land on with the ArcGIS Pro. So this is the starting page that you land on, and interestingly, you can actually, as I said, change this in the settings. So you just come to settings, in the options, under general, you can actually say I want ArcGIS Pro to be starting by opening a certain default project or without a project template, and so on. And another interesting fun fact, just before we go to the look and feel, in ArcGIS Pro, for those who love the dark theme, right, you can actually have the dark theme in the ArcGIS Pro, and the catch here is you have to restart it for it to actually take effect. So let's just restart it. After all, we want to see how the dark fill looks like, the dark theme rather. So I prefer this theme, so I usually use this theme. And for those of you who want to use the other theme, you still just go to settings and change it back to the light theme. So you'll realize we have sections here where we have recent projects, and the most recent project I worked on was adding raster data to ArcGIS, and you can find this video, of course, among my videos, and I can also share the link below for those interested. So you have this section where you can actually click on map and open a blank map, or open the catalog, or open a blank global scene, or open a local scene, or you can actually start without a template at all. So this right here shows you your details, and because you need to sign in into ArcGIS Pro, that could be the first difference we talk about. So for ArcMap, you actually work completely without signing in, but for ArcGIS Pro, you really have to sign in. So the first, so let me open a map. All right, so let me just take the default settings for the folder where my project will be saved, because I will not really save this project. But for you can actually go and select the folder that you really want to work with. So you'll realize for ArcGIS Pro, this is how the user interface looks like, while for ArcMap, you'll realize, as you can see, this is how the user interface for ArcMap looks like. So let's just expand this so that we have both side by side. So for ArcGIS Pro, for ArcMap, you'll realize we have toolbars, all right, and for ArcGIS Pro, you can realize that we have a ribbon fill to it, and while in ArcMap you just click on maybe edit as a function, all right, you click on selection, geoprocessing. In ArcGIS Pro, you actually just click on different tabs, and you can actually see that the different functionalities come with the different tabs that you click. So this, I like to relate it to the migration of Microsoft Office to the Office 2007, where they left the toolbars and went to the ribbon fill. So it's kind of the same idea. So for people using Microsoft Office, this will seemingly be easier to adapt to. So that is the first major difference between these two. The look and feel is different in the sense that we have toolbars on ArcMap, and just isolated, or rather independent from each other, but in ArcGIS Pro we have the ribbon fill kind of arrangement of the tools. So that's the first major difference between these two applications. Another major difference between ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro is the file extension, or rather the format of the files that are saved. But before I get ahead of myself, let me just dive a little bit into the history of these two applications. So you'll realize that ArcMap was introduced in 1999, while ArcGIS Pro was introduced recently in 2015. So that therefore then means that ArcMap is actually 32-bit and ArcGIS Pro is 64-bit. And for those people who are not maybe techie and would like to know the difference between the two, it just means that ArcMap can only access 4 GB of the memory, or rather of your RAM. So that's how 32-bit applications work. While a 64-bit application, now ArcGIS Pro in our case, can actually access much more. So let's say you have RAM of 16 GB, you will realize that for ArcMap it will only utilize 4 GB of that RAM. So even if you're working on heavy projects, it will not leverage more. But for ArcGIS Pro, if you have a 16 GB RAM machine, for instance, and you're running a heavy 3D kind of project, it will actually leverage more RAM. And 64 bits are also helpful in the sense that in case the program is likely to come under attack, the additional security features applied to 64-bit program helps, So that's just I'll just leave the history at that. I may discuss that in another video. I just talk about the evolution of ArcGIS applications, but that should do it for now. So let's talk about the file extensions. ArcMap files are in the format .mxd, while ArcGIS Pro are in the format .aprx. So what this means is ArcMap actually saves these files as ArcMap documents, and let's just run through it quickly. So I'm just going to add data from a certain project I worked on adding vector to ArcMap. You can find this in my videos. I'll put the link down below. So once you have your project, let's say you're working on a map, all right, with some schools and roads, and you want to save this, and you want to save it whole, you want to save the whole project. So for ArcMap, you'll actually come to Save As, and you'll realize it's an ArcMap document. So you'll realize that it will not save the whole project as one folder, right? Or rather the whole project in one folder, but it will just save ArcMap document. And the catch is you have to put all those folders that have the data that you're actually calling right there in that folder, right? Otherwise you'll get an error showing you an exclamation mark and telling you the data source is not correct. So how people correct that is you come to repair data source. But that's, so if that has ever happened to you, then that is the reason. Maybe the folder was not together with the ArcMap document, but Esri has actually taken care of this in ArcGIS Pro, where ArcGIS Pro actually saves the whole project. So we'll just add the same layers that we added on ArcMap, all right, and then we'll just add all those layers here as well to just have a similar work interface. So yes, we have added this map, all right, and we want to save. Let's say this is our project, we're working on building this map, and you want to save it. So you'll come here and Save As, and you'll realize it's in the format APRX. So this is what I was talking about. It saves it as a project, all right. So once you've saved it as a project, you'll be able to get everything in there, all right. So the advantage here is that you can actually have more than one map, all right. So you can come to map and probably insert another map, all right. So new map, and I'll provide the link to the data below as well. You can actually get them when you watch the adding vector data to ArcMap video among my videos, so don't even worry about that. So we can add another map in ArcGIS Pro and actually let's add an image. All right, so yeah, you can actually have more than one map. You can have more than, and this is the new catch also, you can have more than one layout. You can have a portrait layout, and then at the same time you can come here and have at the same time a horizontal rather landscape layout, right? And you can have as many of these as possible. It just depends with what you're working on or what you're working with. But for the ArcMap, of course, this was a challenge because we only have the data view and the layout view. Let me just show that real quick. So we have the data view here and the layout view. So you can only create one layout view, right? But for the ArcGIS Pro, you can actually create a couple of layouts, and you can also have a couple of maps. You can have a couple of tools in the toolbox, all right? So you can just actually have the whole project working. So one interesting thing, especially for imagery, so I want you to look up here where my cursor is. You'll realize when I select the layer, then some additional features come here, all right? So even when I select this right here, you can see that they appear. So another thing is when you go to the imagery tab, all right, you'll realize that they are all inactive. So these only come active when you actually have an image, all right? So let's assume now you have the image here. You can see that they have now become active. So that is basically the main thing I wanted to point out for .mxd versus the project data type .aprx on ArcGIS Pro. So if I've left anything out, then I believe I will cover it when I'm looking at vector functions, which I plan on doing this month. I plan to do a 3-week series specifically on vector functions later in this month. So if you want to catch that, then subscribe and you'll be able to catch that. The next thing I want to actually look at is the feature services editing. Both ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro can access features from ArcGIS Online. We'll talk about how to upload feature services to ArcGIS Online in another session. But for now, I've already uploaded this map that we are working with here. And let's just look at how we can access that. So here is my feature service on ArcGIS Online. I want to access this map on ArcGIS Desktop, all right? So the best way to actually access it is coming here, and I've just right-clicked and opened in another tab, and this is what you're seeing here. So the best way to find items from ArcGIS Online on ArcGIS Desktop is actually to just copy this ID. And for instance, we can come back here to ArcMap, and on ArcMap you can actually come to add data and then add data from ArcGIS Online, and you can actually copy paste this right here. So let it load. Let me just click search. Okay, so here is our map. As you can see, this is the map I uploaded online. So you can just add this to our ArcMap, and while it's doing that, because it may take some time, we can also try to do it in ArcGIS Pro as well. All right, so it won't allow me to go to minimize it, but let's try. Okay, so it's already added it actually, so it's not taken that long, but as you can see, it's still adding more things slowly. So let's just do the same on ArcGIS Pro. So we're just going, so here's the major difference before I even do it on ArcGIS Pro. On ArcGIS Pro, there is this element of portal, all right? So this means I can actually access content from ArcGIS Online directly from here already, because this is a folder on my ArcGIS Online account, and you can see that it's already here, right? So you can have folders on ArcGIS Online right here on the desktop. So ArcGIS Pro kind of works hand in hand with the portal, but still we can actually still search for the same content on general portal. So there is all portal. This is actually my content. So the content I published to my account on ArcGIS Online. These are the groups on ArcGIS Online, and this is all the all portal, like all ArcGIS public maps. All right. So I'll just copy paste the ID there, and as I said, this is the best way to find something. So in the case of ArcMap, you'll realize I had actually opened a completely new map. All right, this was a completely new map, but for ArcGIS Pro, I'll just open. So for ArcMap, I opened the application of fresh, or rather a blank map, in order to add that map and not have any challenges. But in this case, I can just come here and say add a new map. All right. And then now on this new map is where we'll add our, map from ArcGIS Online. So we can just come here and say add to current map, all right? So it takes some time because of maybe the internet and what have you, because it's actually adding it directly from ArcGIS Online. So it does that, adds it here. And the major difference that I want to talk about here is for ArcMap, all right? So let's just see if it has loaded. I feel like it's still loading, but let's try to zoom this to layer. Okay, so actually for ArcMap, so let me just talk about the major difference. So for ArcMap, it's in read-only format, all right? In ArcMap, it's in read-only format, all right? And that's the major difference, really. All right, but in ArcGIS Pro, you can actually edit on the fly. So we've actually gotten this data from we've taken this data from ArcGIS Online in both scenarios, but on ArcGIS Pro, you can actually edit this data on fly, while in ArcMap you cannot do this. It's in read-only format. All right, so that is a major difference between the two. So for ArcMap, what you'd have to do is probably download this data, and then while it's offline, you can actually do your edits and then re-upload or overwrite the existing files. Another maybe quick component that I may want to look at as I summarize is the element of domain. So for instance, you want to add a domain field, for instance, gender. In ArcGIS Pro, you can actually do that very easily. You don't have to go to the properties, unlike in ArcMap, all right? So you can just come here and say add a field, and then while adding the field, you can come and say gender, all right? And then on the domain, you have to make sure it's text first, all right? So text, and then in the domain, you can actually just add a new domain, come here, say male, female, all right? So all that. So it's very easy really to do this on ArcGIS Pro, and this is one of the elements that I feel like I will be looking at alongside vector functions as I look at the various vector functions in ArcGIS Pro. But for now, I believe those are the most general differences between these two desktop applications. Otherwise, if there's anything that you feel like I've left out, I'll probably do a part 2 where I'll be looking majorly at the functionalities. So let's say the tools that maybe have not been added to ArcGIS Pro from ArcMap, and some tools that maybe have been added, and some tools that are in ArcGIS Pro and are not on ArcMap, and the reasons why Esri may have not added a certain tool, all right? Maybe because of it being redundant. We'll have to talk about that in another session, where we'll generally talk about the functionalities. But I hope you learned a couple of differences between the ArcGIS Pro and ArcMap, and some similarities as well, if you may have seen some. All right, so I'll share all the links that I have worked with in this video, and additionally I will share a link to an ArcGIS Pro trial, and you can get to actually do whatever I've done in this video. You just follow that link, get your trial, and try to do what I have done, because I'm going to share all these links, including my ArcGIS online map feature service that I've added. So if you like this video, click the like button below, and of course subscribe for better getting videos in the future. Thank you.